Check. Check, check, check. There we go. Everything looks good. I should have capitalized ice. I'll fix that. Hey everyone. So the news of the day is that, I mean, in general, people are in an uproar against ICE and deportations and illegal immigration and who's asylum seekers, who's a refugee, who's trying to legally come here. And it's rough because the reality is the pendulum has swung to the other extreme. And I know personally people who've been caught up into that pendulum. And, I know somebody from Australia who got deported. And I believe there's other people who are here, and it's just circumstances around their immigration. And really, this topic isn't so much about legal immigration, which is, for one thing, very difficult. It's very expensive. It's very hard. A lot of people try to come here and find themselves in a web of attorneys who don't do the job right. It's confusing. There's a lot of animosity from the immigration department. They'll detain you for hours at the airport and will not believe you, will not take your information. Finally, they get the information. Finally, they listen. They realize everything's all right, let you in, or over a circumstantial belief from the person, send you back. That's all around the realm of normal people, working people, people who are bettering the world with their lives. But the issue at hand is that there are millions and millions and millions of people who are not trying to better the world with their actions. And in fact, a lot of those people are here in the United States. United States has a lot of opportunity, has a lot of finances, and we're starting to see an unraveling of people taking advantage of the system, politicians and bureaucrats who allow for the taking advantage of the system to happen are getting caught. And you have the policing arm of immigration, which is ICE, Department of Homeland Security. So recently it was accused that ICE was using a child to essentially, try to get the dad out or something, or using the child as bait or arresting the child. But these headlines are not true, because there was a statement, there's facts around this, and it seems like any opportunity politicians and people have to jump on something, they're going to jump on it full force and never question, because you're talking about agendas, you're talking about positions, you're talking about two lines on a battlefield, and no matter what one side can do to fight the other, they're going to do it. And so today, as of 10 hours ago, there was a video released by this politician, and I don't think she even checked her facts or tried to check her facts. But yeah, it's this lady right here. We're going to watch a little bit of this.
ICE is using a 5-year-old boy. A 5-year-old boy. They took him and used him to lure his father out. And now they've detained them both. The family doesn't know where they are. This is the worst of the damn worst. This is not humanity in Minnesota, folks. If you can look at this 5-year-old and actually with a straight face still support and be silent in the face of what the Trump administration and Kristi Noem is doing, I just can't even believe this is America. I will not vote for a damn penny to Kristi Noem or ICE in this Congress. This is a time where we should all be outraged. If this doesn't...
So yeah, outraged. But this is an example of the worst right here, because, she's just using something to try to move an agenda forward. We all know Minnesota is extremely corrupt, and that's, I mean, it's bad. I'm from California. I know California is corrupt firsthand, dealing with the city and county of Los Angeles and, the sort of crimes they've done against black people. But a lot of people don't know because it's done in the shadows. It's done secretly. Very few people understand sort of the politics behind it and who's in the room and what they're trying to do and who got screwed over and why they got screwed over, and even black people getting killed by their own government. There's black people in charge. Black people killing black people on the political side, and nobody knows about it. Nobody's aware of it. And so the corruption in Minnesota is so ridiculous that, she's trying to prop up something that is crumbling underneath her feet. There is a statement that the Department of Homeland Security put out. Tricia McLaughlin, calling this a horrific smear, because Kamala Harris reposted it. She's definitely a talking puppet, just not real at all. ICE did not target, arrest a child, or use a child as bait. ICE law enforcement officers were the only people primarily concerned with the welfare of this child. The father and alleged mother abandoned the child. Agitators scared the child. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. As agents approached, Mr. Conejo fled on foot, abandoning his child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended Conejo. Our officers made multiple attempts to get the alleged mother, who was inside the house, to take custody of her child. Officers even assured her she would not be taken into custody. The alleged mother refused to accept custody of the child. The father told officers he wanted the child to remain with him. During the situations, agitators swarmed the scene and began yelling and blowing horns and scaring the child, because they don't care about the kids. Our officers' primary concern during the entire operation was the safety and welfare of the child. Following the mother's abandonment of the child, officers abided by the father's wishes to keep the child with him, and even got the child McDonald and played his favorite music. Fathers and son are together in Dilley. Parents are asking if they want to be removed with their children, or ICE will place the child with a safe person the parent designates. This is considered consistent with the past administration's immigration enforcement. Parents can take control of their departure and receive a free flight in 2600 with CBH Home app. By using CBH, illegal aliens reserve the chance to come back the right legal way. So, of course, there's a lot going on with ICE. There's a lot of contacts with citizens happening right now with ICE. And I don't know if you know anything about police. Some are kind and caring, and some are not. And you're not going to get the one all the time. Like sometimes people get tired of getting yelled at, things thrown at them. They get tired of, going after these people, so many of whom are criminals. I was in Mexico and I met people who had gone to prison and then got deported. What were they doing? They were committing crimes and they got deported. And so, you have this situation here where this thing's being blown out of proportion, and, people are trying to stay relevant and bring accusation. They bring accusation. The people on the other side love that, and they say, oh, they want to get angry about something rather than understanding a very complex, and there's millions of contacts happening with our policing agencies, and it's just not going to be 100% perfect at all, ever. And that reality is just, people are just pissed right now. And it's a lot of just Trump hate. I mean, in this presentation, I got similar numbers with other administrations. Obama was very tough on immigration. Very tough. Obama was the king of deporting people. And, people were getting awards at that time, and now they're vilified because it's the Trump administration, not because of this is what we've done. There was years of open border policy that allowed a lot of people come into this country and cause serious harm. The whole example with Laken Riley, it's a tragedy, man. And it could have been avoided. We have a country. That means we have borders, and those borders have to be protected, and people can come here legally. And I know people who come here legally and go through the horrible immigration process to do it legally, but they do it. So this is the reality of ICE right now and what they're dealing with. And I don't know if it's going to get worse or if it's going to get better, but I mean, ICE agents are getting shot at. When that starts happening, you're going to enter into an America that might not be very fun to live in.
Scenes like this became the norm in 2025. The Trump administration stayed true to its promise, working with immigration and customs enforcement officers to secure the country's border and cities. ICE and DHS roundups happened across the country, from New York City to Minnesota to Portland, Oregon. Here's a look back at some of the most tense moments captured during raids this year. Inside a federal building in New York City, an ICE agent violently pushes a mother to the ground. She's screaming for her husband, who's getting taken into custody. Her kids watching the whole thing unfold. The agent was eventually relieved of his duties over the incident. Chaos also unfolded outside on Canal Street in November. Here, protesters clashed with NYPD and federal agents. Politicians also found themselves up in arms with the feds. NYC Comptroller Brad Lander broke down after witnessing an arrest inside of a courthouse. Once the alleged criminal was taken away, Lander's protest got himself in trouble as well. This was the fiery scene in Massachusetts. As raids took place in the city of Worcester, neighbors ran out of their homes trying to resist. Across the country in LA, anti-ICE protesters took measures into their own hands, literally chucking rocks at cop cars during a magnitude of raids. The protesters didn't stop there. They then set motorcycles on fire in the streets. This footage shows them raising their voices at incoming officers in June.
Step back. I'm on a public road.
This standoff in October.
Doing anything. You're a thing that.
Feds do their business in a neighborhood in Chicago. Agents stand up to protesters, fighting them off with tear gas.
I'm dying, yeah.
You okay?
No. He's not okay. He's not okay.
What happened?
They put a spray in his eye.
Similar weapons also used in
Similar weapons. Dude, of course they're gonna spray you. What do you think's gonna happen? I mean, it's not crazy. They're gonna spray you. They're gonna attack you. I mean, if you start putting your hands on a federal officer, that's a crime. It's one thing to protest. It's another thing to get physical.
We are performing an immigration action. He is not giving us the information we need to release him. If he tells us the number, he's gone. We release him and walk away. We are identifying who he is. By that point, we will let you know if there's a warrant. You don't have a warrant. You are not identifying shit. Stay back.
miserable. It's an awful situation.
Turning back to that breaking news out of Chicago, Customs and Border Protection says agents were shot at while conducting an immigration enforcement operation earlier today. Cameras from our Fox affiliate were there in the aftermath of the shooting. That's the video currently on your screen. There have been weeks of tension in Chicago over the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration, amid a legal battle over whether the White House can send the National Guard there. Former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey is with us. Jonathan, so a black Jeep apparently speeds by a bunch of ICE officers. Shots are fired and the Jeep speeds off. What's your reaction?
You know, I want to say it would be shocking or something else, but I feel like with all of this rhetoric and all this what's been going on in the last several months with this rhetoric, political rhetoric directed at ICE agents, directed at CBP, it's not surprising that the level of violence against them has risen. And something like this, and even something worse than this, are bound to happen because of the rhetoric. And the unfortunate thing is these ICE agents are simply doing a job that they're required to do. And these politicians are, elevating themselves, their status within the Democratic Party by essentially tacitly supporting this type of activity.
It's a wonder, frankly, that nobody was hurt. ICE agents had to call in local police. Are they allowed or are they not allowed to actually, enforce local law and maybe fire back in a situation like this?
Well, they're certainly allowed to defend themselves and also to arrest somebody doing that, because that would be a federal law violation as well. But it just gets so complicated because you have the locality, of Chicago and Illinois as a whole that are basically fighting against, the governments are fighting against the federal government at every step of the way. So they're really not getting the support that they need. And even the local police probably want to support them, but they're not getting the support from their upper level. So it really is just a bad situation. And again, these agents that are out there, these are moms and dads, brothers, sisters, neighbors of so many people, and they're putting their lives on the line, and they're in fact doing what they're supposed to do. And these politicians...
This woman looks deranged. She's very angry. But this is what ICE agents are dealing with. Every time they go to do an immigration action, you got 100 people showing up, and that adds chaos, complete chaos. They don't want to hurt nobody. They don't want to attack their neighbors or attack these people. And yeah, they're just doing their job. I mean, immigration enforcement is a part of our entire policy here in keeping America safe. But yeah, there's these massive rallies today. And of course it's going to be Minneapolis. It's going to be California. It's going to be these sort of places. But, this is what's going on.
Live images from the Target Center in downtown Minneapolis, where anti-ICE protesters are gathered after marching through the brutal cold. Hundreds of businesses across the state are closed today in a show of solidarity.
And dozens of faith leaders were arrested at the airport today. You can see some of them here let off in zip ties and loaded onto a school bus. They're urging airlines to join the call to end the immigration crackdown.
Despite the cold, protests got a little heated at the Whipple Federal Building. The sheriff's office used pepper spray after protesters threw snowballs at squad cars, breaking windows. Some were let off in handcuffs.
Also today, federal agents defending their decision to detain this little boy. They say his father took off running and agents took care of him.
I will say unequivocally that we are experts in dealing with children. Let me say that again, experts in dealing with children.
March and rally through downtown Minneapolis, protesting ICE arrests in Minnesota. Our Frankie McLister joins us now from the Target Center.
Frankie, certainly a cold day to march outside. That shows some commitment there. What are you hearing from demonstrators today?
Yeah, guys, and that definitely didn't stop folks from coming out here. We are inside of the Target Center right now, where on my press badge it says the name of the event, and that is ICE Out of Minnesota, and what they say, a day of truth and freedom. We'll toss to some video right now because there was a march that led up to this entire gathering right here inside of the Target Center. This is a scene of what we saw earlier, folks gathering on what they are saying is a general strike today. As we know, many businesses are closed, or they say their reasons why they're open today. Minneapolis schools being closed today too, but they do have a teacher work day. So that brought a lot of folks out. The march started near the Commons, which is right smack dab near US Bank Stadium. It proceeded on 3rd Street, up Hennepin, and then it landed right here at the Target Center. Now, I spoke with a teacher amongst all of those protesters who said what she's most concerned about.
The safety of my students and their families, their inability to work and make money, getting groceries, paying their rent, and frankly, the violent tactics that are harming our community.
So that's just one of many we spoke to. I want to clarify, there were also folks at today's gathering in downtown. I haven't seen any inside of here, but that were for in.
Yeah, she wants to talk about safety, but what about the safety of American people from foreign criminals? I mean, that's the reality. All right, I think this is live in Los Angeles, and I come from this world. I've been at many protests back in the day before my eyes were opened to the unbelievable war that's going on, and it's tough. It's tough. I mean, when you don't see a picture that's expansive. I mean, I came from a very liberal background. I know this world very well, and I remember getting very upset about things, and even to this day there's a lot of things I believe in, and there's some things that are just rooted in a plan to destroy the human race, and people don't see that. They don't understand that people of wealth and power and position will use other people to cause people to fight against people. And none of those people have anything to do with the global hands of puppetry. They have more in common than they think, but the reality is they're blinded to this idea that, you know, there's a lot of violence going on from illegal immigrants, a lot of violence, and it's not on the media. I mean, you see it sometimes on conservative media, but if you saw every single violent interaction that happened with an illegal immigrant and that was plastered onto the news, you'd have a completely different perspective of this. The rapes, the abuses, the murders, the theft. I mean, you name it. It's happening. People from other cultures do not believe how we believe. They believe in a completely different way of life, some of these people. And it does not jive with the West at all. And, you know, you want to think, oh, everybody is a refugee. No, that's not true at all. Some are refugees. Yeah, absolutely. But if people can use that and abuse that, they absolutely will. So what are they saying over here?
For my friends here, this is an ongoing attack. This violent military occupation by ICE in Minneapolis, where they are kidnapping parents and children of 5 years from the streets.
Wow, he just said the lie.
Where more people have died in ICE detention now than in the past 20 years. 36 people. It's an escalation, but it's not something new. It is consistent with how immigrants have been demonized and scapegoated to uphold white supremacy. And it's consistent with defining who counts as an American and who is treated as surplus labor to be discarded when convenient. Just like the farm laborers in our community have always been treated.
He's a paid organizer.
But the people have risen to meet this escalation. In Minneapolis today and LA and Chicago before, we are seeing new developments in how people are getting organized. And that should give us hope. This is the...
What should give you hope is them deporting illegal migrants and then making easier pathways for people to come here. And you could be using all of this energy to push the government to improve the immigration process for a lot of people, because it's awful. It is absolutely awful. I'll tell you that 100%. Immigration into the United States is a miserable experience. And so, you know, people are going to march for a million different things. This is a situation I have here where people may have come in illegally or may have come in legally and have run into the awful immigration process that we currently have. And it's very real.
I was reapplying for my work visa in the immigration office. I was doing everything completely legally.
I came to the U.S. legally 11.5 years ago. I was granted asylum. Then I got a notice to appear in one of ICE's offices in June for what they called a routine check-in.
We went to Cancun for vacation with my family. When we came back, got out of the plane, they pulled me aside. I didn't understand why.
They said, you need to reapply through the consulate and we need to send you back to Canada. And in my head, I thought that meant, okay, I'm just getting on a plane and going home.
That was never a concern. I had a green card. I traveled multiple times before out of the country.
I was sitting there looking for flights to go home and I was taken.
They were like, we have to detain you.
I was under arrest.
With no explanation. It felt like I had been kidnapped.
You're kidnapping me.
They said they are detaining and deporting people who are here illegally and criminals.
I was never in the country illegally.
I did not come here
It
illegally.
was legal from day one.
So?
You know, having a mother taken away from the kids, I felt like a knife was just like stabbing my heart.
I never expected.
Problem with these examples is they're so few, and they want to lift these examples up as this is everybody. This is not everybody. This is a small percentage of everybody, especially people who get wrapped up in the process or the policy, and unfair circumstances happen. The world is unfair. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The world is genuinely unfair. But the reality is, this is not everybody. Okay, you look intelligent. You don't look like you're going to turn this into a third world hellhole. You look like you're a good part of society and you're going to contribute a lot. All three of these people. But their example is not the example. Their example is the extreme outliers. And
new record-breaking figures.
You can't judge the whole situation of millions of circumstances by just a handful of people. But what is that? That's a liberal outlet trying to take and play some sad piano music and add the add the sound effects and try to do a tear-jerk explanation of a tough situation that can in time get worked out for sure, especially if you're a green card holder, unless the policy swings so hard to the right. Hey, we're going to revoke green card statuses for a lot of people. You know, that's going to be tough, man. And it could absolutely happen.
Out by the Department of Homeland Security revealed 2.5 million illegal aliens have left the U.S. since President Trump took office in January. 605,000 were deported, 1.9 million self-deported, according to DHS, saving billions from public services. The Department of Homeland Security will soon have its own fleet of planes to boost its deportation operations. The National News Desk's Matt Galka joining us live now with details on this plan. Good morning to you, Matt.
Well, good morning, Jen. DHS will spend around $140 million to buy 6 Boeing 737 planes as it continues its large deportation operation. The money is part of the large amount allocated to deportation efforts passed by Congress in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act earlier this year. The bill contained $170 billion for border and immigration enforcement over the length of President Trump's second term in office. Now, typically, charter flights are used to carry out deportations. DHS says the purchase of these new planes will save the agency money in the long term. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said this new initiative will save the U.S. taxpayer $279 million. These planes will allow ICE to operate more effectively, including using more efficient flight patterns. Reporting in
See, people are self-deporting. They know that they got to go back, and it's better to do that before you run into this horrific scenario of somebody coming and pulling you out of your house at night with your kids and everything. There's a lot. I know a lot of people who came to this country maybe on a visa and just stayed. Visa overstays, and they should go back because that's wise. But it's getting to such calamitous levels with our fellow Americans who do not see eye to eye with, hey, let's reset the situation and then improve the process for people to come here. At the end of this thing, there's going to be 3 more years of Trump policy. And is this just going to get so out of hand where people become so thoughtless and mindless that they don't want to look at these millions of examples of horrors that illegal immigrants bring into other nations? I mean, you go to Europe now, it's a hellhole in a lot of those major cities because of illegal immigration. Britain is on the edge of a genuine civil war, a shooting war. And those people don't even have guns. We have guns, you know, but the United States is getting on top of this problem before it becomes so bad. I mean, I don't think the fraudsters in Minnesota ever thought that they would get caught. And a lot of them came over here, but then they got the money and they can go through the legal process. There's a lot of fraud dollars going around. I don't think they ever were going to get caught, and they got caught. People get caught over time, especially if they're committing crimes. But, you know, now it's getting to the point where there's so much hatred. And if you're operating out of hatred, you gotta think twice. You gotta change your mindset, because hatred isn't good for you and it isn't good for what you're trying to accomplish. If these people organize to help improve the process, if these people organize to lobby, if these people organize to help these, I mean, look how much wealth that they have on their hands. Well, pay for these people's immigration process and bring them back in. If you organize the right way instead of just burning stuff down, there's things in this country that genuinely do need to be burned down. There has been generational wealth and power that has created systems that bring us into slavery for real, not for fake. We're not, Trump is not part of those systems. I mean, maybe not. I don't know if he's given in. But there's real generational, I'm talking about generations across centuries, that people have built powers and systems to enslave the human race, and they see everybody as cattle rather than human. Those are some systems that got to get burned down so that we can have a chance to live in this world without being under the thumb of debt and bondage and all those things. Those are real systems that got to get burned down. But it's always the what's being presented in front of your face rather than what's being hidden 6 to 10 layers behind that. That takes too much mental intelligence to even come to understand in its honest and form. And that's called evil in this world. Real, genuine, seething Satan in this world. The devil in this world. But when people are emotional, they're easy to manipulate. And these people are genuinely getting manipulated because they don't want to see the facts.
DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, Tricia McLaughlin. Tricia, thanks for being with us. You know, we watched that interchange. We were talking earlier in the show about the church in St. Paul where protesters busted in because one of the pastors at that church is a federal law enforcement agent as well. There are more and more threats against these officers. I'm guessing you've had to expend significantly more resources trying to keep them safe as they do their jobs. What are you doing to try to keep them safe?
Well, absolutely. Well, we have more men and women on the ground. You saw last week the president sent in more federal law enforcement. And he's doing just that, trying to protect our men and women on the ground. But Secretary Noem is completely right. We've seen an 8,000% increase in death threats against our law enforcement officers. But it's not just our agents and officers being targeted. It's also their families, where their children go to school, where their spouses work. This is all being put on the deep web. We're having our ICE lawyers being stalked and followed on their way home. In Minneapolis, there's a number of these hotels closing because they've faced bomb threats against them because this is where they believe that these ICE officers are staying during their time there. It's really spiraled out of control. And by the way, where are Jacob Frey? Where is Tim Walz saying, stop there? Where is the condemnation when there's violence against federal law enforcement officers? We've only heard that from the President of the United States. We've only heard that from Secretary Noem and those on the right. I think it's about time the left looks in the mirror, say enough is enough, and they got to put really public safety and law enforcement safety ahead of their own political gain.
Moving on to the category of you can't fix stupid, but this is onto the lawless state of California. There's this wannabe governor, Eric Swalwell, who now says he wants to yank driver's licenses from ICE officers, despite handing them out to illegal aliens like candy on Halloween night. Listen to this.
They're going to lose their immunity. They're not going to be able to drive. I will take your driver's license. Good luck walking to work.
Wow.
Tricia, but to go back to, he wants to deprive federal law enforcement of the ability to drive with a license. But he wants people who broke the law coming into this country, many of whom are criminals. He wants to hand driver's licenses to them, but not people who protect the laws of our land.
Dagan, this is just gutter politics. This is a clear political move. It's quite frankly disgusting. And oh, by the way, Eric Swalwell is supposed to be a member of Congress. He's supposed to create legislation. If he wants to change the laws, he should do that, not demonize our men and women on the ground who are simply enforcing the rule of law that Congress passed. And you brought up this commercial driver's license that Gavin Newsom has given scores and scores to illegal aliens. And we've seen the dangerous and deadly consequences of this. We've seen these vehicles be used like missiles going down the roads and killing Americans, American children. Secretary Duffy, Secretary Noem have been really all over this. We've been making special targeted operations to make sure that those who are in the country illegally are not getting those driver's licenses, and that we are absolutely stopping those who do.
Are you having success finding the protesters, the rioters, who are themselves breaking the law and making themselves criminals? Are you having success finding them, apprehending them, and bringing them to justice? I don't feel like they're ever going to stop, but I do feel like a real incentive by being apprehended by law enforcement could help. How's that going?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of violence on the ground there in Minneapolis. Just last night, there were fireworks being shot at our agents. We've had ice blocks being thrown at them, rocks being pummeled at them, spit, and otherwise assaulted. And yes, if you lay a hand on law enforcement, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You can bet on it. And DOJ has been working very hard on this. But as far as a whole of government approaches, it's also a question of who is funding what looks like highly coordinated, highly organized protests that devolve into riots. And sometimes it looks like they are hell-bent on making them riots. We are making sure we're following the money. Secretary Besson has been excellent on this, and we're looking, is this just coming from domestic funding streams, or is this more international foreign money as well?
Trish.
International money trying to manipulate the United States. Nothing new. but just the fact that there's an 8,000% increase in death threats. See, the issue is there isn't going to be changing somebody's mind on this topic, because that person would have to be willing to think, willing to rationalize and look at the facts of what's going on. And if they're not willing to do that, how are they going to change their mind? People have their mind made up. People have their mind made up that the Satan is ice. The devil is ice. And I fight the devil. You know? I'm the good person. People always think they're the good person. No. How are you going to change their minds? This thing's going to devolve into pure insanity. Because that's what happens. If something is spawned out of hatred, you're not going to get to love and peace and equitability. Ever. That only comes from a sound mind and thoughtfulness. If you don't have a sound mind and you're not thoughtful, how are you going to be able to do any of that? How are you going to change the world? Make the world a better place? You know? People have tried to go to some of these places in the world where they have a culture that is just savage and bring change and realize that, like, you're not changing these people. We have a culture in America that's savage. It is not rooted in thought or analyzing the facts or looking or digging into things and examining the truth. Those thinkers get out of that. People who genuinely think leave those types of communities and say, man, this is actually not a good thing. This is something that is manipulative. And it's having us fight against people who are actually trying to help us. That's why it's called an intervention. You know, you're not going to have an intervention for people who've made up their mind that ICE is the worst thing on the planet. That's just the way they're going to be until it gets to that precipice, that pinnacle, that point where everything changes. And, you know, it's crazy because, like, back in the 90s when I was a kid, it wasn't like this. This raw, seething hatred that we see now in the last 10 years, it's depressing. It's genuinely depressing. You're just like, oh my God, things are getting... People are just so full of hatred, and it's blinding them completely. And they're not looking or examining the truth of what's going on. That you would do death threats. Like, anybody who does death threats, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you threatening somebody's life? Like, how does that benefit you? No, we're just so full of hatred, we can't not do it. So this is the head of ICE right here, Mr. Tom Homan. Been around for a long time, worked for many presidents. Obama actually put him into that position, and Obama put an award on his neck. You know, from 2014 to 2016, Homan was appointed by President Barack Obama as Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Executive Associate Director to Enforcement and Removal Operations in 2013. By 2014, under the Obama administration, Homan began to argue that separating children from their caregivers would be an effective way to discourage illegal border crossings. The journalists, and I mean, they even came out that was not true. I don't know why that's in Wikipedia. But Wikipedia is not it's degraded. People who get the position of an editor go in here and make up stuff. Intellectual father of the policy, which outlined years before adopted. Most parents don't want to be separated. Well, why weren't you up in arms against the Obama administration? It's funny how this is all they talk about. They don't talk about his numbers or the effect. In 2015, Obama awarded him a Presidential Rank Award as a distinguished executive. Thomas Homan deports people, and he's really good at it. That's what they choose to put. Out of everything in this man's career, that's what they choose to put. You know? Obviously, he stayed in the position under the first Trump administration. Usually those kind of executives don't need to rotate out if they're doing a good job. And, you know, it's like he was fine when the president was somebody you supported, and now he's a villain.
Back in 2015, when Tom Homan was given the Presidential Rank Award for distinguished service by none other than Democrat darling former President Barack Obama. How about that? This is what it said in the press release. In the 3 years that EAD Homan had been at the helm, ERO has removed more than 920,000 aliens from the United States. Many of them were labeled as criminal illegal aliens. But you didn't see anyone back then assaulting ICE agents as they worked. The media, they didn't care. In fact, CNN went on a ride-along with ICE. Democrats, as you saw, they gave Homan an award. It was celebrated by them, the work they were doing. That's how you know everything you're seeing right now up there in Minneapolis and Minnesota. It's political theater, and it's been egged on with the continued negative rhetoric against them. And here's one of the latest clips from New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
I am in support of abolishing ICE, and I'll tell you why. Because what we see is an entity that has no interest in fulfilling its stated reason to exist.
Oh, really? They don't? Their stated reason to exist? Well, let's go to the ICE homepage. It states this about enforcement and removal operations. ERO's work is critical to the enforcement of immigration law against those who present a danger to our national security, are a threat to public safety, or who otherwise undermine the integrity of our immigration system. So I would say that ICE is doing just exactly that. We've talked about it at length. The part that legacy media and Democrats, that they ignore more than 10,000 criminal illegal aliens have been arrested. Some of the latest are these guys here from DHS. Yang Kua Mawa, a criminal illegal alien from Laos with convictions for homicide and robbery. That guy is admitted he is an Oriental Low gang member and was issued a final order of removal in 2013. Here's another one, Zitao, maybe, all right, a criminal illegal alien from Laos with a conviction for homicide. He was issued a final order of removal in 2015. Yet, because Democrats think this is a winning issue, painting ICE as President Trump's Gestapo, they're actually considering shutting down the government again because of it. It's reported in Newsweek this: progressive Democrats have signaled opposition to an effort to avert a partial shutdown of the federal government, saying the newly released funding bill does not go far enough to reform U.S. immigrations and customs enforcement. So again, Democrats, they were just celebrating ICE a few years ago. But in order to get their way, maybe shut it all down once again. And as of now, we've been able to identify 9 Democrats in Congress calling for ICE to be abolished altogether. Get rid of it, they say. Here's a list of some of them. You can see AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, some of the others there. Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from New York, also on the list. Even more calling for ICE to be reformed. What I don't understand is what changed, right? Democrats were all about ICE less than a decade ago. What has changed? Well, I'll tell you, nothing's changed. It's Democrats think these people staying here now is politically good for them, so they're willing to cause total chaos in order to make that happen. Really sad.
Just want to cause chaos, man. Get them riled up.
When Americans turned on their...
Yeah. No, it's tough because you don't want to see these people who are going out and trying to fight the system get hurt or make a stupid decision and ruin their life. I hate to see that because we fight like heaven here. That means we care about everybody. We wish people in other cultures would change and would advance their cultures to a more equitable and peaceful situation. I don't want to see liberals get harmed or hurt or them hurt somebody else or them do something stupid and ruin their life when people are doing what they've been doing for the last however long we've had a country. They're just doing their job, but it's politicized now. So the war machine of the left has to immediately sacrifice their lives for the politicization of a topic.
Their TVs in the early 1990s, one contentious issue was hard to miss: immigration.
Is immigration good for America?
The federal government won't stop them at the border.
You spend $5.5 billion a year to support them.
There's a right way and there's a wrong way.
At the time, there were around 5 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. And most Americans saw immigrants as a burden on the country, taking jobs, housing, and healthcare, and thought immigration as a whole should be decreased.
Our country is invaded by immigrants who are like cancer cells.
That same year, Republicans ran on a tough-on-immigration platform and took control of Congress. Democrats were pushed to adopt tough positions on immigration, too.
We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws.
In 1996, President Bill Clinton signed a major piece of legislation, the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, or IRA-IRA. Its goal was to decrease the number of undocumented immigrants. It did the opposite. Before the 1990s, undocumented immigration into the U.S. looked very different. For one, it was usually temporary.
People used to go back and forth across the border. They would go north and, for the harvest, and they would earn some money, and they would go back to Mexico.
And if they wanted to come live permanently in the U.S., there were a few legal channels, but not many. If they married an American citizen, they could get lawful status. Or if maybe their brother was a citizen already, he could sponsor them. Or an employer could. And these could be done after they were already living in the U.S. undocumented. Before 1996, the threat of deportation was relatively low. People were commonly deported for committing a crime, and it was mostly limited to major crimes like murder or trafficking. But IRA-IRA, together with other 1996 laws, drastically expanded deportable crimes to even minor infractions like shoplifting. It was also retroactive. So say it's 1976 and someone is caught stealing some albums from the mall. They wouldn't be deported. Over the next 20 years, they never commit another crime. But after 1996, they could be deported because of that old misdemeanor. And not just if they were currently undocumented. This applied to immigrants with lawful status too. And previously, an immigration judge could decide if the deportation should even take place. Now things were a little more automatic.
Ignoring the fact that those deportations would be extremely harmful to U.S. citizen children or to spouses.
Deportations skyrocketed, and IRA-IRA created the framework for future laws that further expanded reasons people could be deported, especially after 9/11. But IRA-IRA also made another huge fundamental change in the U.S. immigration system.
One of the aspects of the 1996 law that is particularly strict and I think in many respects inhumane is the so-called 3 and 10 year bars.
Those 3 and 10 year bars made these legal pathways nearly impossible to obtain. They work like this. Anyone who's been undocumented in the U.S. for 6 months and wants to gain legal status first has to leave the country and be barred from returning for 3 years. If they've been undocumented for more than a year, they're barred for 10 years. So if they want to get lawful status through a job, they first have to leave the U.S. for 10 years. Or through their brother, leave for 10 years. Or through their spouse, leave for 10 years.
It's family separation by another name. The bars were intended to try to essentially create punishments that were so severe to deter people essentially from coming here. But as we've seen with many other deterrence-based policies, the practical effect is very different.
Instead, it incentivized people to stay in the U.S. undocumented. Before IRA-IRA, Mexican immigrants who came to the U.S. unlawfully were about 50% likely to return to Mexico within a year. But after 1996, more people started staying in the U.S. There were around 5 million undocumented immigrants living at the U.S. before IRA-IRA. Today, it's at least double that.
And we are somehow surprised by this outcome. This is of our own doing.
Laws like IRA-IRA shaped the way the U.S. focuses on immigration enforcement as a deterrent. But really, it proved that stronger enforcement doesn't actually stop undocumented immigration.
So that's just an example of policy, right? Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but it's policy decisions that people have made that maybe you could put your energies towards working on that. But, it gets a little, I didn't even know about that until looking into this. IRA, I didn't know. I didn't know that I did know that if you stayed here on a visa overstay for a certain amount of time, you couldn't come back, you know. But I didn't know it was linked to that policy written in 1996. You know, these are some of the things that people could use their energy towards instead of death threats, you know, but it would take a lot more care, concern, and consideration to do it. You'd have to look into things. You'd have to figure out how to lobby. You'd have to figure out how to organize to lobby. You know, I think everybody would like decent people coming into the United States who make a contribution, build businesses, build families, live in peace. No problem. But what does the policy landscape look like? How much money do they have to pay for attorneys? $50,000, $40,000, some ungodly sum of money?
When it comes to the immigration debate, Democrats are always presented as the nice ones. It's Republicans with their deportations and strict border enforcement who, we're told, don't care about the lives of immigrants. Is that true? I'm Anders Hagstrom. Welcome back to Nuke the Narrative. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified when we upload. So what future awaits an illegal immigrant once they're in the US? And is it really compassionate to let them in? We often hear how beneficial immigration has been to the US. Almost half of Fortune 500 companies were started by immigrants or their children, half of STEM workers in Silicon Valley are immigrants, and nearly 20% of America's skilled male laborers are immigrants. But those are, 1, legal immigrants, and 2, not even from South America. They're from all across the world. But what happens to the South American illegal immigrants that we're actually talking about when we talk about our current immigration crisis? Well, they're working for American companies by the millions. In fact, there are 7.6 million illegal immigrants in our workforce right now. And while we only hear about them when we're told how inhumane ICE raids are, the reality is they're getting exploited by construction companies and farms that know they can get away with paying them virtually nothing. Anywhere from 50 to 70% of farm workers are illegal, and 15% of construction workers. And these companies know the people they're hiring are illegal. That's a feature, not a bug. In New York, nearly half of immigrant workers say their bosses bully and intimidate them, 2/3 say they've been injured on the job, and more than half reported bug infestations in the living spaces their companies provide. And they get paid virtually nothing. In Massachusetts, an illegal construction worker broke his leg on the job, and rather than pay his workers' comp, his company just reported him to ICE. And there are dozens more stories just like that. These companies are using illegal labor to undercut their competition and then discarding workers like spoiled goods. If this is the reality of our current immigration system, is it really compassionate to let immigrants keep coming? Or is it more compassionate to punish those employers and enforce our border policies to stop more immigrants from making the dangerous journey here just to be ruthlessly exploited? There are 2 solutions to this problem. Democrats propose amnesty, but that would only incentivize more illegal immigration. As the message spreads that America will give anyone legal status, then more and more will come until we essentially have open borders. The conservative solution is this: stop the flow of illegals at the border, deport those who are already here, and punish the companies who exploited them, and then reform our laws to make it more practical for more people to come here legally, so they can work for fair wages and under humane conditions. That's all we've.
It's a fair point, what he's saying. Definitely. You know, I know a construction owner, he was worried about his workers. He wasn't abusing them like this, but there's too many stories of illegal immigrants getting abused because of their status, right? And there's an element there where people could put their harness and focus their energies to improve the system rather than burn the system to the ground, and then there's no system. You know, there's states right now where police don't even want to work there, cities where police don't even want to work there because it's so horrible and deplorable, the conditions that this mindset has created. And when that happens, there's no safety for anybody. And then you want to call the police. Oh, I've been attacked. Oh, I've been robbed. I've been mugged. I've been abused. I've been molested. They killed my friend. Nobody shows up. You got to find a way to both hold the system accountable, improve the system, while at the same time supporting the system for what it's designed to actually do. And immigration is designed to actually stop violent offenders and people who are going to cause extreme pain in this country from coming in, and open the door for people who want to work and live and have a peaceful life. That's the way it's shaped to work. But if your only mindset is to burn something to the ground and attack people, then what good are you going to do? You're going to do no good at all.
This is just one more example of something that is not thought through and is primarily put forward for political consumption.
The bill before us will certainly do some good. It will authorize some badly needed funding for better fences and better security along our borders.
The fence is now basically complete. Maybe they'll need a moat. Maybe they want alligators in the moat.
Secure our borders with technology, personnel, physical barriers if necessary in some places.
We will not build a wall. Instead, we will build an economy where everyone who wants a good job can get one.
I voted for a fence. I voted unlike most Democrats, and some of you won't like it. I voted for 700-mile fence. And let me tell you something, folks. People are driving across that border with tons, hear me, tons of everything from byproducts from methamphetamine to cocaine to heroin. It's all coming up through corrupt Mexico.
And the impulse is to hunker down, shut the gates, build walls, exit at this moment is precisely the wrong answer.
Former presidents have said to him that they wish that they had built a wall. Do you recall President Obama ever saying that?
Come on.
Construction of a 630-mile border fence create a significant barrier to illegal immigration on our southern land border. All along, the president's saying, well, I'll do DACA and Dreamers in return for the wall. He's got it. President Trump, if you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall.
Build the wall, abandon the wall, build the wall, abandon the wall, build the wall. It's like these people flip-flop because they just want their job, because they have a job where they can do insider trading and make a ton of money and tell people what to do and have all this power, and you know what I mean? They don't care what they got to say to do it. They really don't. They know their voter base. They know the people that will show up and what those people want to hear, and those people are really the problem. Because of leaders like this, I mean, Hillary Clinton's always looked so crazy. She's always a crazy-looking woman. And but that's what people want, you know, and you can't change their mind quickly and en masse. And I wish I could. I really wish, because, you know, we can work on improving things, or we can just burn stuff to the ground and, you know, create a horrible place to live for each other. And then a bunch of people can go somewhere else. But you got to understand, at the end of the at the end of the golden brick road is the United States, because there's a lot of other countries that are just not going to let you in at all, and they don't care about you. They don't want to hear your opinion. If you try to get in, they'll kill you, and because they want to take care of their people, they want their people to be safe. And one of those countries is Poland.
He's really good.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
Is that the one?
He's really good.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me about Muslims' illegal immigration, none, not even one, will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
The Commission President says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. This is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care. I care about my family and about my country.
He's really good.
Now, we're not the only country with an illegal immigration problem. Of course, we've seen this roil Europe. Sweden, for example, used to be one of the most welcoming nations for refugees who wanted to resettle there. But following a series of riots and a stark rise in crime that's linked to the migrants, they said no more. And they reduced the number allowed to come into the country. The country's new prime minister started what is a dramatic shift to Sweden first last year. And Poland, well, they have a different approach. They have a very strict immigration system there. They've accepted some refugees from neighboring Ukraine, but they will not allow in people from elsewhere, even if they're seeking asylum. My next guest, a Polish member of the European Parliament, is going viral for what he said this week about illegal immigration. And the Biden administration, they should take note.
The lowest unemployment in the European Union is Poland. The highest GDP after COVID in the European Union is Poland. One of the lowest debts in the European Union is Poland. So don't give us this rubbish about the need of educated immigration. We don't need your doctors. We don't need your engineers. Take them all and pay for them. We don't need them. You know why? Because there's zero terrorist attacks in Poland. Why? Because there is no illegal migration in Poland. So don't give me this look. Don't give me these arguments about the populism, because this is a fact. This is your data.
Joining me now is Dominik Tarczyński, who's a Polish member of the European Parliament. You just saw in that video. Dominik, it's great to see you tonight. Now,
thank you very
the
much for having me.
The EU decided that this refugee welcoming was very important and a positive development for Europe, all of Europe. And they look down on people like you and Poland in general for its decision to say, no, we have to support and protect our culture, which does not include, the Wahhabist Islamic outlook and Wahhabist policies and traditions. And you say?
We don't care. Well, there's a difference between a refugee and a migrant, especially illegal migrant. As a lawyer, I'm trying to repeat it every single time for years now. They are not refugees, they are criminals. Those who are trying to cross the border illegally are criminals, and as a criminal should be deported, and there is no discussion about it. Our policy is very straight. Zero. Not even one, never ever will come to Poland if it's illegal. If he's trying to cross our border illegally, he will be punished and deported, not welcomed as we heard. We're not going to pay for them. We're not going to fit them in the beautiful rooms in the hotels or anywhere else. They will not stay on Polish soil. They will not stay in Poland. Poland, as I said in the parliament, and I'm trying to repeat it, Poland is the only country in the European Union without any terror attack. We haven't had any terror attacks in Poland because there is no illegal migration. That's why every single time I'm trying to say, be like Poland, be brave, believe in your own nations. But most of these spineless politicians in here in Brussels are destroying their own countries. I must say, Mr. Trump was right about the wall. He built a beautiful wall. Can you imagine America now without a wall? Poland built a wall. We have a great wall, and no one is able to enter. No one is able to come to Poland. And as we promised, our government promised in 2015, not even one will come to Poland ever.
Well, Dominik, you will continue to support allowing Ukrainian refugees, genuine refugees, into Poland during this war, correct?
Well,
you have to remember that our situation is completely different than America and Americans. We are a neighboring country with Ukraine, and by the international law, those who came to Poland, over 2 million, mainly women and children, are honest, genuine refugees. But our law was changed for some time to support them financially, support them with education, with the healthcare, and all they need to live in Poland. But for many reasons, recently Mr. Zelensky seems very ungrateful, I must say, and our law might be changed. We don't have to support them with all these benefits, like financial support. We don't have to do it. We wanted to do it. We decided to do it, but we don't have to do it anymore. And I think our contracts, while ended, will not be extended.
All right, Dominique.
I am convinced Warsaw has the cleanest metro system in Europe. Just look at this. I have made many videos about how great Poland and Warsaw are. But the one thing I can't emphasize enough, mainly because it's still so surprising to me, is the cleanliness. Polish people respect their country, the law, and each other. That's why it's so clean and safe. I'm highlighting the metro system now because in most Western cities, these are usually the most filthy places. Imagine a public toilet in a metro station in a big Western city. And then look at this. What I love about Warsaw and Poland isn't just the cleanliness, but the values behind it. Respect, warmth, and integrity. If you haven't been, you should definitely visit. But when you do, honor the country the way the Polish people honor their country.
There you go. Not one terror attack. I mean, I did a show about terror attacks, and Paris had one of the most horrific terror attacks ever. People were murdered, mangled with bare hands, brutalized, disemboweled, with their intestines hung from chandeliers. Because why? They don't believe in Islam. They're the kafar, they're the unbelievers. And guess what? One religion is responsible for a large majority of the terror attacks. Only one religion. For a vast majority of the terror attacks. And guess what? He says no Muslims in Poland. They don't want that. And that is a line in the sand that's going to be drawn in our generation, if you like it or not. All this stuff is happening if you like it or not. This is the reality of the world you live in. That's why we call Fight Like Heaven, because you have to fight if you like it or not. If you want any progression in life, if you want anything out of life, you're going to have to fight for it. You know, and even fighting for information, fighting for truth, you know, fighting through prayer, seeking God, seeking Jesus Christ. I mean, no matter what, you're going to have to fight. So Poland's decided to fight that way. Hey, these people, they don't mesh with our culture. They can't come here. No, not even one. He repeated that so many times. That's their mindset. Zero. Not even a single person. And there's different between refugees and migrants. There's a big difference. And Europe and England and France, they're living the reality of that big difference right now. Because guess what? Their politicians sold them out. Their politicians are in league with the interests that are interested in destroying these nations. And from its destruction, profiting, gaining power, gaining influence, redeciding how things are going to be handled. That's the world you live in, man. There's behind all this stuff, there's a very wealthy person who has an interest, who wants to see an outcome. Sometimes that outcome is just to torture and destroy human peoples sadistically for no gain whatsoever, just because they can. And if they can get you to do it, if they can get you to burn your own police cars, you know, sure. If they can get you to fight against your neighbor who's really in the same boat, you're in the same boat together. You have nothing to do with these global politics. You have nothing to do with this generational wealth. You have nothing to do with these people who hate you and hate your family and hate everything you stand for because you're a commoner. Common people against common people, man. It's ridiculous. The ICE agents aren't rich. They got no say-so. They're just doing their jobs. Poor people on the streets, organizing to make a difference. You're not making a difference. You're just causing your own destruction, and you don't even see it. But most of these people do live in comfy situations until they are a victim of a violent crime. But, you know, a lot to say here. Is ICE doing a good job? You let me know. Well, maybe you won't. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. But either way, you know, we're going to see a lot more of it coming up. A lot more of it. And it's going to get crazy, guys. This is going to be a crazy 3 years are coming. So, you know, let's see how it goes down. All right, guys. Keep fighting. Fight like heaven.